ಅಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ಸ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ಸರಿ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಅದನ್ನು ರೈಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು
ಅಲ್ಲ ಅದರ
It's okay, I'll try. Okay, it's wonderful to talk to you. And it's a very difficult subject today when we talk about constitutional values and Indian cinema as such. In fact, it's very difficult to talk about the other directors who use the constitutional values. Only I can just get a kind of a survey of the Indian cinema and actually how I am connected to that. I think first thing came in my life where the constitutional values, what to say and what not to say, came when I did the Gashiram Kotwal. And very skillfully drafted a musical, I can say. It's a combination of opera and dance drama. Tendulkar, in fact, created a different genre, Gashiram Kotwal. In fact, it was a kind of a metaphor. It was to say something about the power and how power uses the different elements in the society. What Tendulkar says that there is a one upper power and it controls all the elements of the parliamentary section and they do it. And he couldn't say perhaps in his contemporary period. So he took this period of Peshwas. In fact, he was nothing like any caste who is ruling. It rules. That's the reality, and it has to come in democracy. So he wanted to say something about the fascist method used and controlling the, what you call a puppet as such. And that's why he used the metaphor Peshwas. Gashiram came, very ambitious, was humiliated by Brahmins in Pune. And then he used his beautiful daughter to win over Nana Fadnavis. And that's how he became the Kotwal, the chief of the police in Pune. And really the whole inner fascist element started coming into him and he started torturing the people. And he created a terror world there. It's affected and they come to know that this is something. So he said they themselves defeat the world. And he proved those examples. I can't give you historically so many things. He said, and then what happened? Some people from Telangana had come to Pune in Sarasbag, a famous garden. And told Kotwal that, look, these people are from another state have come and snatching mangoes. So he got him out, arrested, and put into one barrack like thing. And next day morning, people came to know that the barrack had no windows at all. It has only one door. And all 35 people, all Brahmins, they were dead. And this became a kind of a rumor in Pune. They came to Peshwas, they came to Nana Fadnavis, they said, this man is a terror, kill him. And all the people came and they said to Nana what to do. So Nana's purpose was over, as in politics. He said, kill him. And they went to a place called Thivur, where Ganapati is the main god, and they got one elephant, and they tied Ghasiram to legs of elephant, and they brought in a julus. Ultimately, he was stoned to death. That's what the whole thing happened. But the thing is, he brought in a very musical form, which was enchanting. Bhaskar Chandravat did the music, Vishwadev music, everything. And suddenly it became, and people understood the importance of the whole political structure, but they said it is anti-Prime Minister. And that's why my own group, where we started, they said we are getting all kind of threatening letters. So as a director, I thought, I belong to the group, it's not very impressive to them. We stopped after 19 shows. And there I came to know there are certain rules where a creating writer writes his own metaphors and he takes something of not this period. He talks about something else as a metaphor, still it can provoke. But maybe after 1 year we did a show. Then Mr. Sharad Pawar was the state minister of home, He took a wait, said, "Okay, how can we stop a play?" So the play was done, and then there was no end. And he traveled not only India, not only performed in Bengaluru, we performed in Mysore and so many places in South, and became a hit. And then also the invitations came from abroad. We first went to Berlin Theatre Festival, where it was taken in there. Then we, with the help of our main actor Mohan Agash, we traveled 6 countries in Europe, and it became initially then into North America, except Australia. Except Australia and Saudi Arabia and the Middle East people. The play has gone everywhere. Now see, it takes time. What I want to say is, it takes time. When people revolt, that's not a common thing. But there the constitutional values came. First time I came, and it was hardly very young man. See, look, a play to be banned is kind of a thing. It was not officially banned. But we said, let us be in the purview of the whole thing. If people are not happy, why should we do it? Knowing fully well that we are saying something which is very innocent. But there I first came to know that you have to be within this kind of a cultural value. What is it? So, the next came a play, Tripini Opera, Brecht's play. And there P.L. Deshpande, the great writer, was born. And he said, for any kind of political system, which is like corporate kind of a thing, a big one, you need 3 ingredients. You need beggars, you need mafia, and you need prostitutes. That's what it meant. This was what? The structure of the political. So that was my second part of, you can say, political journey in theatre. Where again there was nothing happened with that, but few things here and there. But the play was very popular. Again, it was a musical. It was a combination of all kinds of music, like traditional Natya Sangeet. But I brought something like African jazz into Marathi. Because it's very prosaic to sing and give a message. And Brecht is like that, with the Illumination theory. We had the mindscape. And something is spoken into prose, and suddenly the main actor goes and he snatches the mic and starts singing. And the band was visible on the stage. We had drum, we had sarangi, all Indian music and all that. That became interesting. That was a part of my journey. That first part said, in my life, it's written by Tendulkar, there can be puppets into the political system. And then second came where, what kind of political structure. The last was by Arun Sadhu called Padham. It was again a musical. It said something else. When a young man from the Students' Union comes up, and exactly what happens to the Students' Union, and what happens to young leaders, what is the future? And then when they talk about all problems. And we brought purposely the street plays on the stage. But what I mean to say is that we said some, in a way, harsh things, but they were taken up. And I tell you, nobody stopped this. So what I mean is, if you say in the correct way, we can be in the constitutional values and we can perform. In Bharatanatyam Shastra also, a very funny story, I must tell you, that self-censorship is also very important, which Dr. Ambedkar mentions. What happened was, when the first play was done by Bharata Muni, so it was over Devaloka, and they performed. The Asuras, Apsaras, Kinnaras got very angry because they were not in the play. So Asuras said, come, destroy the play. And in the Swargaloka, they all came and they destroyed the play. So Indra said, what is this? It's a place and art. You can't do that. Asura said, yes, but it's not a property of Devaloka. We also want to express. Why not we? Why only Devas? Bharat Muni goes to Prithviloka. The women will be allowed. See, this one is Bharatanatyam. And you will be all part, Asuras and everything. But he said there should be something like Achara Sangeeta. So the censorship problems come for Bharat Muni Shastra. And Indra created something very symbolic, which every filmmaker, theatre people must keep in mind. Bharat Muni said, there's something like Dhwaja, is a round thing. So when the play starts with the Bharatanatyam Shastra, the Dhwaj, a kind of a small group that starts singing called Dindi, if you know the Sanskrit play. They come forward and they place the Dhwaja in front of the Rangamancha. So everybody on the stage and also in the audience understand that play has been done keeping the symbol that we are controlling ourselves. That is what in last 75 years all the filmmakers are following is the self-censorship. It's not spoken anywhere. Girish Kasarwal is here, my friend. And we all followed. Oh yes, this can be said in the script. Oh, this can be not said in the script. So this is what I think the whole Indian cinema has. It changes according to the political system. To me, when after the freedom, when we had to unite, as Gandhi said, so many religions are here, you have to combine them. To me, you will laugh at me, but to me, in the commercials Hindi cinema, there was very funny film with the biggest box office hit, and it gave a message that we are all one. And entertaining people, that was Amar Akbar Anthony. Very funny film, where three young sons giving blood to mother. I'm a medical man. I was thinking, what Manmohan Desai is trying to say? And I met him when I was making Umberta. I wanted a clip from his film to show in the ashrama. See, we have very wrong notions about Hindi cinema, film directors like Manmohan Desai, Nasir Hussain. They made big blockbusters. But see the message, common message in those commercial Hindi cinema, which has spread to all Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, all big commercial films, has to have a social message. They openly say. But Manmohan Desai did this kind of thing. I said, Man, how we call you Man? But what is this? 3 sons giving blood to him? He said, that's our country. Jawab. We have to follow that. One Anthony has to be there, one Akbar has to be there, and one Amar. I don't know how this country is going to survive. I don't think I read constitution. I don't think so. तो मैंने कहा यार ये क्या हो रहा है? How people can देखा ना लोगों ने? Is of this year box office. They have agreed to a very non-science kind of a thing. But I think he followed that thing, and he with conviction it is. The other important point is, I am commenting something in my film Umberta against that this is nothing but Hindi cinema, commercial cinema is giving a dream. So, how the common people enjoy the dream of Kashmir, all the snowy area where Hema Malini and Dharmendra used to dance and sing and all that, is a kind of a dream. A common group, posh, powerful palaces, as a man from Chopalpatti is watching that, the kind of a thing. In Umberta, all the deserted girls are there in Adhath Ashram, but every week they show some film, and what they can see, they are not going to see Girish Karaswamy or Karan's film or my film. They have to have some entertainment. So I wanted to ask one they say, can you give me a clip? So Smita are in the meeting, and how look the highly intelligent people commercial are. I asked one, do you know where I'm using the clip? I'm using the clip in front of the deserted girls, Anath girls, and you're showing dreams, I'm going to show them this dream of yours, which is not going to be possible in India. He said, this is the right thing you're doing. Now we are showing those girls, and I tell you, I wanted a inter-negative 35 mm, because otherwise I can't match. Manmohan Desai himself got that inter-negative, he spent himself and gave it to me in a box. Use this. You know, my film is a very low budget film, and inter-negative was so expensive. He said, no, you won't afford to take this, and put inter-negative. If you see Umberta, this part is there. So it's a kind of a very mixed up picture. But ultimately what comes up, I think, ultimately Baba Sahib Ambedkar, he rules over us. And he knows what it is. And he said, free speech free, whatever you're doing, Avishkar is it, free Avishkar, free speech, and you have everything to perform. The whole thing when Ambedkar was done, keeping in mind this kind of a dignity of democracy and what the man has created. To me, Ambedkar gave something to us. He was not part of the freedom movement. In fact, according to eventually sometimes the freedom is going to come. To me, Gandhiji, Pandit Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel, all the things happened with their help. Great work was done and freedom was given. But there was somebody who needed that for the whole country, it's a mix-up kind of a bunch of people here, you needed to codify the freedom. And the great work Vidya is Dr. Ambedkar in his constitution codified thing. Because he needed kind of help. So ultimately, though the conflicts were in Gandhiji and Ambedkar, they both agreed to Pune Pact and we got all the reservations and everything. The thing is, Ambedkar must have faced during his studies. In Columbia University, if somebody has gone to New York, he studied in Columbia. In Columbia, between his studies, between 13, 16, 19, you'll be shocked to know there was no blacks were allowed. No women were allowed. See, it's a funny thing. That one blacks were not allowed. And that's why there was not very direct mention of Ambedkar about the black connection. But when I went for my research, I was shocked to see, Columbia University, and you want to enter where Dr. Ambedkar stayed in a hostel. We walked through that lane. To my surprise, I saw you have to enter the Harlem. Harlem was the biggest chopperpatti ever, and Harlem had all nothing but mafia and all black things, all small chopperpatti like things, small things and all. I said, what must have happened to the man who wrote the Constitution? He had a big work of depressed people here, and he's passing to the America, the great country. One black guy comes there and he is helping him. So some people, even our Dalit people objected. Why are you bringing this? What dishes? What do you mean? I said, this is a reference. So when you biopic you will make, you have to get all these things. I said, there is a reference. And he goes to church. It's a black church. And the priest says, welcome a man from India. Suffer like us. He also suffering in India. And that brought the whole thing. It was a little created scene, but it made the whole difference. That is why I think Ambedkar had that guts of saying. Seligman, his teacher, wrote a thesis already between the ratio and the rupees and the pound. And Ambedkar, as the economists failed, there's a wrong proportion they're saying. And they're looting India. And not giving the correct proportion to rupees. Of his own teacher, who did it exactly. He asked him, what is your subject? He said, proportion to rupees and pound. And what is that? And he said, this is the whole thing. He said, you're writing exactly opposite to what I'm saying. And I'm going to be a guide. Ambedkar said, what's wrong with it? It's a different point of view. See the seed of this kind of inner freedom, even to Guru, comes in Ambedkar. And he said, what's wrong, sir? And Seligman smiled and said, okay, I agree. And the Guru says, the whole opposite, Ambedkar writes his thesis, gives his PhD. And his PhD first had something to the other people who were there to examine. They said, okay, what he's saying economically is correct. The Britishers are looting India. But the language he's using is a little bit violent. And Dr. Ambedkar was very angry on this, but said, okay, otherwise thesis will not be. So he modified the change. Then look, what I'm saying is it all depends on what you do and what you want to say. Even Ambedkar, they will compromise and said, okay, I understand I'm very, very bold. So he little modified and he got it. So this is what he has gone through the whole thing and given his constitution, the whole thing. And I just now sum up. With all this, in the last speech, Dr. Ambedkar said, democracy. I'm putting this. But all depends people who govern. It all depends on the people who use this. If bad politicians are there, even a good constitution doesn't help. In a mediocre constitution can work if there are very good people with good intentions, the politicians use. This is also his last speech into the parliament we presented. It was very crystal clear. We knew he's presenting this constitution where one of the great Gyanpit Award poet, Kusumagrash in Marathi, like Girish and Kamba, so many Gyanpit Award in Ghana. I was doing a documentary on him. He said, we threw stone on the British Empire that we want freedom. We wanted only one mango of freedom. And suddenly, unknowingly, two mangoes came down. One was democracy and one was the freedom. For freedom, we were fighting a lot. But for democracy, we are not. What kind of regime is going to be? Gandhiji is taking so much effort and all that. What was the end of that? What kind of system? Conclusion are going to take time to adjust. That was it. This is what I want to say, and then perhaps you can.
Before I throw open this for discussion, just start a small dialogue with Dr. Patel. Most of us, of my age, would have seen Gasiram Kotwal. We have seen that play happening in Bangalore. We have seen his other works as well in cinema also. And today he has talked about his film Ambedkar and the values Ambedkar was propagating through his constitution, because he didn't live longer after the constitution was accepted. All these things we have really got incorporated into this. If you look at earlier Indian cinema, even the cinema of Bimal Roy or Constitution also, the constitution values were already there in Indian cinema. It was already there in Indian cinema. If you see early Indian cinema, if you're a bit nostalgic like me about Indian cinema, we had seen that cinema has already taken all these issues. We started with even Satya Harishchandra kind of thing we started, and then we are already talking about these things. These constitution values you are talking about, which we got through Ambedkar as a kind of a, as a text for our living. What was cinema doing till that time, and what cinema has been doing after that time? If you can just throw some light on that.
I think the first 20 years, 30 years, we were fighting with poverty, main thing. And that's why the word theory. So most of the filmmakers from Bibalda to Shida, Rajkumar, so many people, even in all other languages, were talking about the rich and the poor. That was the main conflict. And slowly the other things like corruption and other things were slowly talks about in Panchali. Cinema we had based in theatre, very loud acting and all that. Manikda brought the realism. But the subject remains the same in a very subtle way. Like Do Bigha Zameen also. Even a very commercially Mother India of Mehboob Khan. All those films, I think, had these values. And they were very, very, I think to me, even Raj Kapoor's Sri 420. Today to me, it remains an all-time great movie. Because I think the kind of values is said, maybe in a left way, but even today, the housing systems and the builders and the kind of exploitation remains. So our cinema in the first few years lot of influence, especially new cinema. Lot of influence come, and we followed all the principles what even Ambedkar said, or even what the great filmmaker said. Where that was the main portion was there, erupting, talking about most of the class struggle there. And then came the point of corruption. See, my first film, Samna. In fact, Tendulkar wrote the script for these two great actors, Devi Phule and Dr. Sharan Babu. It was talking about a corruption cooperative society. When the German delegation came to select films, then they were said, it is somewhere 74, 75, that most of the films which are they called so-called parallel cinema is talking about exploitation and the poverty. Even Nargis the commented in Rajya Sabha that what we are doing in these international film festivals, we are selling our property, poverty. This is not here. And suddenly somebody said that the film is made in Marathi. It talks about corruption, a very low-level corruption. And all those three German ladies and Nargis Dutt, they went to one very shoddy kind of a theatre. Very normal, you see that. And they saw the film. And they loved it. And they said, no, this is a film where Berlin should show a new kind of thing was happening with the corruption. And then you will find this whole thing talking about this corruption system in India and the whole thing where people are suffering. Poverty is connected. At the same time, a class struggle. I think most of the films afterwards, in both parallel cinema in a different way say the same constitutional values, but in commercial cinema also you will find people talking about mafia and then prostitution, the sex thing, and everything became. So people are keeping the whole thing. The Constitution has allowed to show that. They did that.
Yes, the kind of mythical characters in India. If you look at any Indian cinema, any language Indian cinema, a lot of mythology was part of Indian cinema. As you mentioned earlier, almost all the cinemas in India started off through giving messages. They were not actually really concerned about the art of the cinema. They were concerned about the cultural values. Yeah, it's basically cultural, mythological, and historical values were the content of the most of the Indian cinema of the early 30, 40 years. Now, how does this aspect look, or how does the perspective of constitutional values you talked about reached us? They were also very popular, as you mentioned. Was that the message, or was what we were discovering our history, rediscovering history, overcoming the colonial rule we had? What is that's happening in Indian cinema?
I think there was a time when people living together had no problem. I mean, the Muslim neighborhood, the Hindu neighborhood, or maybe church somewhere around. And so there was no problem in this. So most of the Hindi cinema has all the characters there. And I don't think anybody refers to Constitution. It's not, that was not the very intelligent way. I mean, if you are analyzing Constitution, what values from the Constitution? Next, you have a Brahmin staying next to the Maratha or Kshatriya. I think there was time. It was still, we're fighting with equality class-wise. So religion, all those things never came into the thing. This, I think, became much later, which we did not talk about, is very obvious. And every country goes to that. Most of the countries in the world have taken up this kind of a step, go to any level of these things and all that. But as we are on the platform of the International Film Festival, we must see also how you equalize your constitution with other things. Yesterday I narrated this to you. When 50 years of constitution came, so like you are thinking of constitutional values into cinema, people thought of constitutional values in actually in practice. So after 50 years of things, they were reformed in the constitution by Ambedkar. And most of the people said, no, we don't need that. See, there were some classes. We thought this is little bit injustice given to some people into constitution. I give one example here. When this was discussed in British Parliament, the film was shown, Ambedkar film. At least 10 people had come from different countries. The constitutional experts to discuss about Indian constitution. The copy was given to everybody. When the copy was given to Lord Chief Justice of British India. So they all said it's beautiful. It contains all human values and a vast country of India. It caters to all. To sum up, like yesterday I quoted, the constitution in the hand. He said, this is the best constitution I think. There is no constitution in England. They go with yes, they have different things to get. But most of the people where democracy is there is a constitution, but this is as far as human rights concerned. This is something great. And you will find similarity. But look, here the Chief Justice of England, people ruled over us for 200 years. Understanding the country we left back has such values. And one man visualizing this and writing is something great. It's a great intuition. I was very lucky. From many locations in Ambedkar film, where actually what happened, I shot in Colombia. And then I tell you, it was very difficult. Girish is here. Colombia is a very expensive place to shoot. When I went there for my recce, one film was just complete, was Rain Man. And they have spent something like about 200 crores, giving grant only to Colombia. I mean, the dean said, they have given us 200. I said, it's something, I mean, it's not possible. It's a government film. My budget is about 7 crores. How can I do that? But I said, don't you value India? He writes constitution. In your Columbia University, who are the people here studied law who have constructed a constitution? Yes. And after 1 hour, after lunch, he called me and said, we won't charge. He's our student. Friday, half day. Saturday, Sunday, you shoot. And you know, if you go to Columbia, it's a big alma mater, and all air conditions are there. Hundreds. And my art director had a problem because our film was in 1913-16 to hide all the air conditions. But they gave the permission. And my art director practically trying to hide the things and all that. And all the students having different costumes and all that. So that was done. So people understand that. And the other part of the whole thing was when Ghashiram Kotwa went to Europe, we had a court case that was defaming a politician like Nana Fadnavis. The court gave order that at the beginning of the play, the director, theatre director, not me, he declares that Nana Fadnavis was a great ruler, very intelligent, blah blah, so many things. And in the end, the line came, because of him, Britishers could not enter Pune. That was a kind of a thing to read. And every director they read on all, France, America, France, Germany, everybody read. But something happened in Holland, very funny, very underline, I mean, you visualize that how a visualizer, a man of vision was Vijay Tendulkar. This theory of puppets, an account for conflict politically. So, Mohan Agashe, everybody knows English, we had English pamphlets. He said, no, we have our own language, I have to translate that. He translated in a hurry, and while doing so, he said one line which was that way funny, but he said at the end, there is no similarity between any living characters here. And he mentioned about Holland. Everybody in the audience was shocked. Why saying this in Indian play? There is no similarity with any characters and incidences. There's a normal, very In novel, political novel, in our film, we say there is no similarity in characters and all that. The audience suddenly said there was something very fishy in this. They started looking at the whole thing. And same thing was happening in Holland. Power, that you have freedom, do it. It's like Bengaluru or Prime Minister. And politically became so uncumbersome, so difficult for the Prime Minister, the open conflict going on. And what was happening in Ghaziram Kotwal was the same conflict between Nana Fadnavis and Ghaziram Kotwal. And they, I'll tell you, even though play was in Marathi, most of the lines were translated in the book. We started in the response. And me and Satish Alekar, we were in the audience, we were shocked how people Marathi, they don't know Marathi and they respond to each and everything. So this is what happens. So these values of constitution, these values, normal living values, they carry forward. And so political message doesn't relate to only India. It relates to other countries also. The same thing, ruler and the victims, they are both there. But you need like visionary writers like Vijay Tagore. So as you say, application becomes something like that. And it goes. If you have in mind, you can move. Like for example, take example of my film Singhasana. What is it? It's a kind of a combination of two novels of Arun Chaudhary. It's a conflict between the Chief Minister of Maharashtra and the Finance Minister of Maharashtra. Finance Minister of Maharashtra wants to overcome and take Chief Minister away, and his ambition to become the next Chief Minister. That is how the film is. But there can be a value for, I tell you, art. I had taken Bangalore, you laugh at it. It was 4.5 lakhs. In 1980, the budget was 4.5 lakhs, the whole film. I had 30 major artists in the whole thing. How we do it? And then most of the scenes were the ministers, Bangalore and all that. And it was not a commercial film. I was a producer. When we approached the government, they said, we want to do this film. Can we use a mantra? Can you imagine? For a film. With fictitious characters. Mr. Pawar was the Chief Minister. The bureaucracy said, what is this nonsense? What is Chaparko? Are you mad? What is the theme of the film? There's the conflict between the Chief Minister and the Finance Minister. I have great admiration for you, for your Ghashiram. I have seen 3 times. But that's not the whole thing here. Don't bring Mr. Pawar into problem. And now, next day I go, Mr. Pawar thought about it. See, this is 1980, you imagine. And then he said to Chief Secretary that, suppose he, in front of Mantralaya, there's another wonderful building called Bajaj House. He said, have you seen Bajaj House? Yes. Suppose this man who wants to make a film, he doesn't get Mantralaya, he goes to Bajaj House, and the chairman's room is made as Chief Minister's room. And there are so many rooms, he made one mantri here, one mantri here. The film will be done. So what is there? We lose. Give some restrictions, let them shoot. So again a Friday, half Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And we shot the film in Mantralaya. So this also becomes a kind of a being in constitutional values. Even the politicians. Being in the constitutional values, you can allow an art to grow. What Pawar must be thinking today is not a thing. He still must be proud that he gave the whole in Vidhanasabha or somewhere. Which are exactly like Vidhanasabha of Maharashtra. We use that, this guy says that this is the Vidhanasabha. But I'm not joking, it's true. That some of the MLAs then saw the film and did something called Hakka Bhanga. That you use your Hakkas in the wrong way. They asked Mr. Pawar to give explanation. Why you allowed Vidhan Sabha to shoot? Mr. Pawar, his own style of smiling, said, Okay, okay. Did you see the film carefully? Yes. Is it our Vidhansabha? See, this is the kind of creation filmmaker do. You feel it's a Vidhansabha. It is not Vidhansabha. So this also can happen. But so this is another angle of looking at constitutional values. How the establishment allows you to use that. There was also a problem during Ambedkar, whether I use parliament, lobbies and all that. But Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was in power and there was a committee and they said, what's wrong? It's a lobby. He was there. And because of Dr. Ambedkar's parliament run, what they pursuits in parliament lobbies. So this kind of a latitude can be given. So this side of constitution values, Vidya, is not only one side of the people who make the films or dramas or novels, whatever it is. I think it's also politicians who are running or governing the thing. They should also know what are the constitutional values where Dr. Ambedkar allows us to take their own freedom. I think that's the beauty of the Constitution. And everybody follows that. That's what I feel.
One last question from my side.
And then...
Yes. This is regarding, women in Indian cinema. To a large extent, what you're saying is about the artists who can use the constitutional values and how they can use metaphors, how they can create images which need not be real, but it is realistic. Like you talked about vidhanasoudha, etc. Now, what about the role of women? What constitutional values project and what's the role of women in Indian cinema? This is a very conflicting, very contrasting
The
situation.
difference between women, role of women, you're talking about female directors.
Female, no. Female roles, female characters that are being created in Indian cinema.
Script and director,
Yeah.
which is written by male.
Yeah, I mean, generally if you see the Indian cinema, there is a problem, except maybe Kasaroli is here and the filmmaker like you, what we saw in other things. There is a very serious issue as far as the woman role is concerned and what Constitution talks about equity and the location of women and the underprivileged in the society talks about, and what happens in the cinema in those areas, the underprivileged and the women in Indian cinema. How does it really come up?
I think it all depends. First, it starts with the family. What family it is. The poor families, they have problem for earning. The woman is the most victim in the whole thing. Because there is no, she has to control the whole thing. You have to come to middle class values. Middle class has a little place for, especially the mother. We are all worshipping mothers. In middle class concept, mother is there. In a very rich class, I think some ambitious women, they control their empires. But most of the places, even in the rich class, is always been overpowered by the male community. A simple example I give you. In my hospital, suppose a child comes with fits, epilepsy. Immediately to stop that, I will give injection. I give injection, then it's an injection, so the young mother who brought the child for 1 year says, okay, now he's okay. But then, is it meningitis? It is encephalitis. You have to take the fluid from the back. So I need permission for that. And I asked that girl, I want to take and they say water is actually fluid, so you need permission. I said, no, let by. Don't do that. The mother-in-law comes. And they said, no, let my husband come. And lastly, the father of the child also comes. Then you will find that poor girl for taken such a small decision is very difficult. And when I say poor girl, I have seen all classes in the hospital, even maybe a businessman's daughter-in-law comes. It's the same situation. They don't have any right for their child to take. No, yes sir, you take the water. It's the life of my child. No. As all the classes coming and all the classes have same problem. That is the situation of women. I think they have to just have children, grow them. This man will go to the bank or somewhere, do the job, and see some soap opera, and at 4 o'clock he will ask a story of the soap opera. What is happening to this girl who has taken the divorce? Has he taken the divorce? It will be the afternoon show. She said, no, he has not taken the divorce yet. This soap opera says something else. Story is going further. This another, her boyfriend has come in the life. What is it? Look, this is the role of the husband. So neutral. This is the situation of today. But I think theatre, a play like Shantada Kuchandu hai, Girish Karnad's Haibadana, even Katashraddha, Girish's film. These films have spoken the role of the women in the society, and I think the whole realization has come. Umbata was part of that. When I show over hundreds of girls, and Smita Patil is governing and controlling the years for her own job, and for it's a kind of a great thing. And the husband says, "Look, you were away from me for 4 years, but there is another woman in my life, and you have to bear that. It was my physical need, okay? You are not there." And she collapses. There are many women organizations, they started asking me, what is that? So most of the women organizations will asking me, this is not a good end of the film. She should have been the family, looked after the child, the mother-in-law, everything. I remember Atal Bihari wanted to see this film. He saw the film, and his Karyakartas were. One of the very strong women said, Dr. Saab, end is very bad. She should have been the family, gone where? Atal ji looked at us. आप क्या बोल रहे हैं? वो जो मर्द है उसको कोई और एक औरतों को जिंदगी में लाई है, आप इसको उसी के साथ रहना चाहती है, उसके सौतन के साथ में? ये कैसे होगा? So again this depends how you think. कि वो हस्बैंड ने अच्छा किया? No, ये बात बराबर नहीं है. But in my meetings with the women, I used to ask them one thing. This is about a woman who stayed away for 4 years, and maybe it was a physical problem with the husband. Now what happened to the male who outside for 4-5 years, and a woman stays alone in the house, and suppose she is in a pair, what do? There is no answer there. So the whole thing comes all slack. Nowadays, education has brought revolution into the young girls. I see today young girls with different fashions of clothes and all that. I see a brightness in their eyes. These young girls, maybe in Bengaluru, in Pune, anywhere, they are absolutely wonderful, fearless. I like this change. I don't say this cinema has been, but definitely it has one value here. When in Bengaluru, the film festival happens. And if you see, apart from Indian cinema, you see the world cinema, a French family, or German family, or even Mexico, Iranian families. You can juxtapose and see things. This is the greatness of the film festival. It's not in India, but outside. How they tackle the family problem. How they keep the woman at the whole thing. And most of the films you will find world cinema, the female-oriented films are very much there. A liberalization has come with them, and that has definitely not, I don't say that film festivals are not thing, but they are onto OTT platforms and so many things. And now, the cinematic values, keeping all the content values in mind, I think the woman today in India is definitely a ringer. And the young girl I see with bright faces, I have 2 daughters.
Yeah. Thank you. Now the floor is open. Please. Any questions?
If there are no questions, very good. Bangalore is a wonderful place.
Oh, very fine. Always the initial reluctance.
Hello?
Hello. Sir, am I audible?
Pardon?
Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Little louder.
Okay. My name is Sujay. I'm a journalist from Deccan Herald. So actually, when I was following your talk, what I really liked was the way you compared Amar Akbar Anthony and how even in a commercial way it has conveyed certain constitutional and secular values. So when I was listening to that, I was reminded of this letter by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. I recently came across this a couple of weeks ago, where he wrote a letter to Bimal Roy after he had directed Sujata, and he said it was a very nice film, and the single most thing that he liked about the film was that it had a very important social message, but conveyed in a way which was not very dull and which was not very direct, so which was cinematically conveyed, but the message was conveyed against casteism. So when you were speaking about incorporating these values in mainstream films in the 50s, 60s and 70s, how do you see those values being portrayed in commercial cinema today? Do you feel they have been portrayed in a better way, or do you think it is taking a backstage as of now?
I think you're right. In you see, like Sujata, so many films are there where even Mronal Das films, so many films are there where they touch this whole thing. But maybe today this class, and especially the caste problem, after reservations, all that, the most of the reserved classes also gone into middle class values. They have come up. And the voice was very ferocious when everybody was suffering. Some of them are a little bit up. So it depends actually, class which is suffering. Maybe that reason. And what is commercial cinema? They take only popular storyline. In that, we'll find this point of like Parda Satya and all very realistic films where mafia and the police inspector and all it. But they find it, untouchability has gone. Where I think this, the kind of sufferings. But you know one thing, I admire South cinema. I think in South Indian cinema, Malayalam, especially Tamil cinema, they are still very harsh on that. Like for example, a film came on the habeas corpus, Jai Bhim. Jai Bhim, I think the wonderful film. And though done in a commercial way, but he puts out the problem across. And then you will find, ultimately, much beyond that, in the rural areas, which is very rampant. And still I think, because most of the commercial cinema doesn't, though the villains are there, ultimately they deal with political, serpent, leaders, they torture women, and they glorify torture of women. But there are certain sensible films where they deal with this kind of oppression. They deal that. But in Hindi film world, it is not very prominent. There are some films which are having Bihar background. They have this. But certainly you are right that this kind of oppression are not into book much. I agree. Anything? Yes, sir.
Was it balanced or was it biased? Think about the way the media was shown in that.
Yeah, I think enough attention was given to the film, and people will like the film. People will like the film. It was enough because it was done in a small scale. It was not a big thing, where you advertise the film on every event, on news event, on television. Nowadays, how you promote your film, that was a little bit mid-budget film. Maybe that was the thing, but the film was liked by people.
Media, how it was.
No, that's what he's saying. Media did not hype the whole film.
Media within the film.
Characters of media in the
It's very, I take this as unethics. It's not good. A director should not talk about other directors. No, broadly you can say, but not. It's up to him to deal how it is. And you should write a letter to him. It's very easy today in social media.
Sir, one thing. Kashmir Files is connecting Indian conscience link. What's your opinion on Kashmir Files? The Act in 370 after the film.
Who?
Kashmir Files.
I haven't seen
That
that.
is linking in conscience.
I haven't seen
370 Act.
Good you suggest.
All the freedoms, it's all absolute and it's restricted according to constitution. Now, when right wing comes to the power, the question of, suppose you as a filmmaker, you're taking a character from mythology and making a realistic film. Contemporary values and constitutional values and democratic values, we are all mixing that. Then the line is very thin. How to present that? As an artistic director, if you are going realistic film, it's very difficult nowadays in front of these types of administration, the right-wing administration. In so many countries it is there now. How to face this? A creative director, how to face these types of problems?
It depends on the director, the scriptwriter, how they put it the problem. See, I think it's artwork, ultimately. It's not a propaganda of against right wing or something. You're not putting values against right wing. That's not your job at all. It's the job of the left wing politicians. Why not enter in that? It's their job. But to put your opinion, your own copy, and it all depends, I think, today, whatever democratic values and whatever constitutional values, I think you can easily put. And you can go with that. I don't think it's this skill. And as you think of a right wing, left wing, I'll tell you, in every regime, these things were there. Not that they said, oh, come, nudity is allowed, you come. No, never. It is always there. So when you putting nudity and going through that, I don't think any problem is there in left, right, mid-wing. I'll tell you frankly. Because this film I referred was during right wing thing. Ambedkar was done in right wing things. There is no question of that. It depends on the director and the team. If you are only in a position, I'm fight karenge. That is not the purpose of art work. हम झगड़ा करेंगे is for honorable people. Our ethical value, aesthetic value is to put a wonderful cinema. And even any wing, if your humanity point is underlined, I tell you, I challenge you. No right, left, big can go against it, unless you put some kind of a no needed kind of a political values in that. But people are careful about that. But I think to a man who is doesn't make. See, we have a centuries history, and everywhere, every time, everybody has this value. We need not worry about that. As far as democracy is there, as far as constitution is there, we should not worry. But you should be careful. I said about Achar Sanhita, self-censorship is the best thing. You know exactly what to say. Even in the family, when we talk about it, you can't abuse. You follow somebody. But you get across your father, you get across your mother. This is not done. You don't abuse. Like that, the society, if you are in control of the historic values. You are control of the artistic values. Even the social message. Humanity. Women-oriented subjects. If you are very frank to yourself, I think you can get across any ideology. I feel that.
To add to that, one small example I'd like to give you, Hani. What happened in the last years of communism in the Europe? If you see Polish films and Hungarian films, the very strong authoritarian governments were there in those countries, Poland and Hungary and the Czech Republic, what earlier it was called Czechoslovakia. You see the films. Some of these films really, no politician would understand that kind of thing. They were talking about human beings, their sufferings even. You know, recently I was, when I was talking to Russian cinema in 1981, a documentary was made on May Day celebration by a very famous Russian filmmaker. That was banned by the communist government there. Simply because the body language of those people who were participating in that May Day celebrations was bad. That was the only reason. They could make out, any viewers like us would make out that there's something wrong with the system. Something terribly wrong with the system. Therefore, that was banned. Therefore, almost all the artists, particularly in Eastern Europe, if you look at the last days of communism, you see that, right, we are facing a right-wing backlash now, we are having that. But an artist would overcome that. He would bring the films, the creative works would say that there's something wrong with this system. Not political terms, but in terms of human dignity and human values and constitutional values we are looking at. That's what I think.
Even in Russia, you say, the films were banned, they had gone to the most of the barracks down there and kept. But you know, some of the people, even though communists were there, you know, they preserved those negatives. Do you know that? That there's going to be history. You will find there are some Russian films which are absolutely hidden somewhere. There was a film I remember called Commander, a black and white cinemascope film. They dig out everything. I give a small example how even those film school people use metaphors. There was a small film where they showed a place, a slaughterhouse. They don't say it's a slaughterhouse. But every time door opens and a small goat comes in, they put a kind of a label and a small chocolate. And in the film there is no human characters, there is only goats. That small goat gets in very amazingly looking. What is this all? And he finds his friend, he just goes to that other goat also. And it's wonderful atmosphere. We don't understand. It's a 4-minute film. What is all going on? Suddenly camera goes to a window and at the other end there is a restaurant. And you'll find people are eating. But they don't go to long shot only. They don't go to close shots. Another goat's coming. And then our hero comes, a small goat. And he is very amazing look at the whole thing. And suddenly sees one thing, that there is another gate here. And there are chains, and suddenly they take a goat there, and suddenly chain is at the legs. And they pull that small goat inside. The door is closed. And you only hear the sound. There's something going wrong inside. We don't know what it is. The again camera goes to the restaurant. Now they come on the mid-long shot. They see they are eating fish, they are eating the mutton. Flesh of the goats and all that. Why is juxtaposing that? And then suddenly, he's put on weight. He's put on weight. Juxtapose, the people are laughing, music is loud. And he goes, what is it? He also look at what is the chain, and suddenly is grabbed and goes in. And the first time the camera goes in, where everything is smashed. That small goat is made into pieces. And he goes inside. And then the close-up shot, Russia. It was a product of the Moscow school. It was a finalist of diploma. I said, why are you banning my film? It's very bad. We know what you're trying to do. But you're using well. My stand was on the people who are eating so amusing the meat. Shameless. All these small goats are there. And with the music and dance, you're eating his flesh. And then he said, there is no protest. There is no protest among the goats also. That they're trying to say, no, we do not go there. This was my message. But this film was banned for 20 years. And a place called Baku, we had some film, Suhasini, and we all had gone. John, film was shown to us. And you know, the director of that film was with us. He was a 45-year-old man. Great. So, Vijay Chandra was division chief. He said, how did the different level people ask questions? So, do you want to ask questions? Vijay Sinha asked one thing, are you vegetarian or non-vegetarian? I said, Vijay, what are you asking? Yeah? No, he said, it's a horrible thing. I was shattered. I said, how can man who is a vegetarian can make this film? I want to know that. See, how different reviews come. But he said no. Constitution says have a dialogue. Say something. Express. That's what the people are doing. I know what was the final result. I asked that boy, I said, what happened to the film? So, artwork doesn't remain silent, I'm telling you. Any theory of the people are dead are angels we talk about. I think artwork is like becoming angel. Maybe your work is not shown during some bad times, but it gives you value. If you are true to yourself, you can have that Kannada award. So it depends when the whole thing comes in. This happened. See, Iran, they took a very different style of filmmaking. And all over, they had Oscars. So that's why I said, your constitution gives you that pakka base. So you're true to that, your ethics are there, your aesthetic values are there. I don't think any problem is there.
That's right, sir. But the situation is, at the time of Kissa Kursika, there was direct action from the rulers. But now the censor board will not speak. IT will speak or ED will speak. These types of things are going on now in the freedom of expression field also. That's what I am worried about.
You are in different generation. The generation is different, but the problem is, ask Girish, he's here. Ask him. The same things were there. That's why we ridicule Bengali style. Because in Bengal, when they love, they say, I love you. Good. Now today I love you, you go direct and very ferociously you kiss her. Not once, 4 or 5 times. The girl looks at him, what have you done, man? You see now what is the reaction? Suddenly she jumps on him and starts kissing double time than what is kissed. Now what do you say now? In my time it was a different sense, but censor would be there. That time also there was censor, and Bengali love affairs were ridiculed. In Devdas, how many times he touches Paro, tell me? Even Dilip Kumar and Suchita said. But still we thought it was great. I mean, it was Bimalda's greatness. And Suchitra Sen is so, restless that Devdas has come for a long time. Bimalda, you know what he has done? This is the aesthetic value. More than what you see today, he doesn't show Dilip Kumar at all. He shows buggy coming and the legs and suddenly the door opens. And after 6-7 shots, they show only restless of Paro and door opens. You see Dilip Kumar, silence. And he says only one thing. I think to me it's highly romantic. Looking at the childhood friend, he says, Kaisi ho tum Paro? With his deep voice, Kaisi ho tum Paro? I'll tell you, in my time, there was great response to the audience. It's such a long awaited affair. And he says, Kaisi ho tum Paro? And the next line comes, Bahut badi ho gayi ho tum. This one line, tum badi ho gayi tum, gives all the physical description what has happened in Suchita Sen in so many ways. So that time was a different thing. Today is something different. Kitne din se believe today is something, it's a modern Devdas is made. Some other graha, upagraha or something like that you will find next time.
Intervention in terms
enough understanding. I said, this is a science fiction. What are you talking? What is the difference between science fiction and science fiction? Science fiction is So this all happens in any genre of the film. Restrictions going to come. Actually, you should attend the shooting of the film. When a director takes a shot, what kind of a dilemma he faces? That I'm doing this shot. It's going to be a little risky, but he thinks and views. That's the whole thing. And if he has taken the shot in that stride, he should be faithful to that shot. Need not worry about the restriction of censor board or whatever. So it is going to come. They are out of the country. And it's not in India. As you said about East European countries, it has been everywhere. So need not worry about that. Yes, any question?
Yes, sir. Good evening. So my question is, since if we see the earlier cinema in 90s, the way to address social norms and society issues were quite indirect. They were like more of an artistic way. But now if we see, they are having more of a direct approach. So I just want to know your point of view. Which one do you support more? Is it good to have a direct approach or indirect approach to every society norms?
I tell you again, the approach of the director. Yes, I'm telling you. You will get something very different from Karan Johar. You will something different from Girish Kasarwalli. Something for Adur Gopalakrishnan. It all changes. The same situation you're describing. Can you interpret it in so many ways? And it depends on, don't get, but on your attitude also. If somebody said there are aesthetic values, a good film is made. Do you go there? That's the problem. If some enchanting things come which can entertain you just for 2 hours, need not. So it depends on the. So it's a two-way thing. It's a kind of thing. It's like a novel. It's a very klishta kavita. You know, it's like very complicated poem coming from Avanga and say this is the whole thing. And you say, yeah, read 10 times, you'll understand what it is. But there can be Sigam, what you call Bhavagita. It will be a very simple way. I love you. It can be the simplest way to make film poetry. It depends on that. What kind of images are in the literature. So you have to know literature, cinema, painting, all together that makes cinema. Anything? Yes.